How Maui Snared the Sun, a Polynesian solstice story. When Maui, not what he seems, had grown up, he left his foster father and set out to find his mother, Hina of the Fire, and the three brothers who lived, he knew, somewhere on the earth. Along the way, Maui fished up whole islands from the bottom of the sea. He hid the fire keeper's smoldering fingernails in the tree and taught the humans to call them out of hiding by rubbing one kind of wood upon another. He tossed the sky higher than the mountains, where it stays to this day. Maui wandered far. At last he spied his brothers hurling their spears against a huge rock in the game of Riti. Who could bounce his spear the greatest distance? Maui watched, but when he came near, as if to join them, the first brother chortled. "Hey, who are you, wrong shape?" he yelled, pointing at Maui's twisted back. "It's Bigfoot," razzed his second brother, pointing at Maui's feet. "It's Bent Neck," shouted his third brother, pointing at Maui's leaning head. Maui answered with his spear. He shattered their rock into 1,000 pieces. "I am your brother," panted Maui, triumphant. The brothers glanced at one another in surprise, but they looked away quickly, not wanting to show they were impressed. "Our brother," hooted Maui's first brother. "Wrong Shape thinks he's our brother," mocked the second. "You're not our brother," yelled the third. "Am so," shouted Maui. "Not," shouted the brothers. "Am, not." "Mother," shouted the first brother. Hina of the Fire appeared. Maui saw that she was very beautiful. "No, you are not my son," said Hina of the Fire. "My sons are these three." "Did you not have another son?" asked Maui. Hina looked at her first 3 sons and back at the stranger, her eyes growing wide. "Did you not leave him to die at the edge of the ocean?" All the brothers looked at Hina. "I thought you had died," she whispered. "I didn't," said Maui. "My sister, Hina of the Sea, carried me to the jellyfish. The jellyfish took me in her long wet arms and delivered me to the gods and goddesses of the sea. Tamanui ki Te Rangi is my father." Maui's brothers looked at one another. How could someone who looked like Maui Wrong Shape be their brother? And how could Bent Neck know Tamanui ki Te Rangi? Hina of the Fire drew Maui to her and wept. Maui's brothers were sullen, even when Maui invented the trapdoor that kept the eels in their eel pots. "Old Maui, full of tricks, thinks he's something," they said. "Says he raised the sky off the ground and gave us fire. Next he'll want to stop the sun." Maui's jealous brothers were right. Stop the sun is just what Maui wanted to do. He got the idea from watching Hina at the pounding of her tapa bark. At work all day with her 4-sided mallet, she could reach only the middle of the board by the time Tamanui Ate Ra, the sun, slipped back into the sea. "Mother," said Maui, "you don't have enough time to finish your work." Maui's brothers rolled their eyes. There he goes again, making good with Mama. But Hina of the Fire smiled. "Oh, Maui, you are so right. Tamanui Atera makes his way so quickly across the world each day that plants and fruits take years to ripen, and fishermen can barely paddle to deep water before the darkness comes again." Maui raised his eyebrows. "I saw the gods put Tamanui Atera on his course," he said. "Believe me, they never meant him to move this fast." He flexed his biceps and said, "Tamanui Atera is going to change his dance, or I am not Maui Strong One." The brothers stopped pretending they weren't listening. Maui's first brother exploded. "You'll be Maui Cinder if you try to trap the sun." "Maui Ember," taunted the second. "Yes, Maui Ash," laughed the third. Maui stuck out his tongue. Hina of the Fire shook her head and motioned for her other sons to keep quiet. "So, Maui, you would try to trap the sun?" "I hate to see you work so hard, Mother." I will make Tamanui Atira remember that there are humans down here who need him. I believe you can do it, Maui, said Hina, but you will need the magic of your grandmother. She is Kahu'akala, and she lives in Haleakala, the house of the sun. You must paddle your canoe to Haleakala, and there on the mountain, beside the Willy Willy tree, you will find the grass house of your grandmother. She rises every morning when the rooster crows and cooks bananas for Tamanui Atira's breakfast. 3 bunches she puts out. You must steal every one. Then when she calls you, tell her you belong to Hina of the Fire and ask for her help. Maui, full of tricks, paddled through the waves and the swells to reach Haleakala. All the world rejoiced at Maui's plan. On top of the mountain, by the Willy Willy tree, the rooster crowed 3 times. Maui saw his grandmother hobble out of her grass house. Feeling around with her hands, the old woman set out the first bunches of bananas. Maui saw that she was blind. Maui snaked out his big hand and grabbed the bananas. She put out 2 more bunches. Maui stole them all. She patted the ground where she had set the bananas. Where are the bananas I cook for Sun's breakfast? She cried out. Maui grinned and kept silent. The old woman sniffed the air. I smell a man, she called out. Come out wherever you are. You smell Maui Thief, your grandson, said Maui. I belong to Hina of the Fire, and I've come to Haleakala to punish Tamanui Atira. He goes too fast across the world. I smell Maui take a dare, she said. Who says you can change the dance of the sun? I can with your help, grandmother, said Maui. She sniffed. Maui could see she was pleased with his answer. So, you would snare the sun, is it? Maui nodded, and then remembered that his grandmother could not see him, so he reached out and touched her hand. Yes, grandmother. You will need 16 strong ropes, 1 rope for each of Sun's 16 legs. You must weave them from the hair of your sister, Hina of the Sea. Come back when you are finished, and I will tell you more. Now go, I have Sun's breakfast to prepare. Maui returned the fat red bananas to his grandmother's hand. Then, deep underwater, he collected the hair of his sister, swirled in the bristles of her brush. Of Hina's hair he made 16 ropes with nooses at each end, and then Maui, ropes piled in his canoe, invited his brothers to help. His brothers were grudging. Oh, come on, said Maui. With our grandmother's help, we can do it. The brothers shook their heads, but they came with Maui to Haleakala in the darkness of the night. And in the morning, Kahu'akala touched each of their foreheads. You must weave a net, she said, like this. And she laced her fingers cunningly. You must hide in the lap of the Willy Willy tree. Dig yourselves a hole there. She scrambled to a joint in the mighty roots, just as if she had eyes that could see. And then you must wait with this magic club. What's the club for, grandmother? Asked Maui's first brother. She snorted. You think you can take on Tamanui Atira without a fight? Maui took the club. The 4 brothers wove the net and dug the hole. They strung the net across the top of the mountain and looped it about the trunk of the Willy Willy tree. Then they hid and waited. In the morning, Tamanui Atira came in a great rush through the crack in Haleakala. Now, Maui yelled. The brothers leapt out, and each of Sun's legs got caught, and they pulled the nooses tight and whooped and hollered. Tamanui Atira bellowed. He struggled and heaved, but the brothers' clever rope trap held him fast, and the Willy Willy withstood the pull of his weight. The Sun's face turned red with fury. What do you want, puny ones? He roared. You're not doing your job, shouted Maui. You hurry, and people don't have light to finish a day's work. Promise to go more slowly, and we'll release you. Tamenui Atira strained at the snare. I'll do no such thing, he cried. He turned his most ferocious heat on the four brothers. Maui's three brothers shrunk away from the terrible furnace of the sun's anger, but Maui stood up and began to swing his magic club at Sun's trapped legs. Whack, whack, whack. Maui broke 4 of Sun's legs. Maui's brother cheered. I will roast you alive, shrieked Tamenui Atira. The hairs on Maui's body singed away. His face began to blister. Whack, 5, whack, 6, whack, 7, whack, 8. 8 legs now, Maui broke. Okay, screamed Sun. Stop. Okay, I promise to go slowly across the sky. Let me go. Maui and his brothers loosed the hina hair ropes. The rooster crowed. Tamenui Atira turned one last furious look on his tormentors and limped away to have his breakfast. Maui and his brothers left the ropes of their sun trap dangling near the crack of Haleakala. Every time he sees it, he'll remember his promise, they said. Maui's brother needn't have worried, though. We sometimes see the hina hair ropes of the sun trap streaming out of Haleakala, and they look for all the world like the legs of the sun. But Sun could not have forgotten his promise, even if he'd wanted to. It's true that half of every year, Tamenui Atira moves as quickly as he always did on his good 8 legs. But the other half of the year, he scuffles slowly on his 8 broken legs. Then the people have Maui full of tricks to thank for the sunshine that ripens the plants in their season and makes time for the pounding and drying of tapa and the spearing of the fish.